Hey people, Fernando, doing another video for the Modern Survivalist, in this case talking about shrinkflation. What is it? Probably have an idea how to detect it, and most of all, what to do about it. Before we go on, if you're interested in the economic aspect of survival and preparedness, I literally wrote a book about this exact same thing, surviving the economic collapse, based on my experience when the economy collapsed in Argentina, and also street survival skills, lots of practical tricks and tips as to be prepared as this continues to unfold. But if you're watching this video, you're probably wondering about shrinkflation. What is it that you can actually do about it? Let's first see what shrinkflation is.
With inflation at a 40-year high in the U.S., we are all spending more when we go to the store. But economics correspondent Paul Solomon reports that there is another dimension of inflation these days, shrinkflation. We'll let him explain.
So what is this, the rogues gallery of shrinkflation? Or?
These are some of the newer items.
In fact, items consumer advocate and lawyer Edgar Dworsky had bought in just the past week.
The first one here is kind of an egregious example. Angel Soft toilet paper used to have 425 sheets on a roll. The new one has 320.
Wow, that's 25%.
So it's almost 2 full rolls in the new sizing. But look at the packages. Don't they look almost identical?
Do they ever?
They look identical because what they do is they increase the diameter of the cardboard tool inside. So if you put these side by side, in the other direction, you see that one hole is a lot bigger than the other. Externally, you don't realize that, it's not as obvious. But if you look on the side, that hole is enormous.
And that's the key to what's being called shrinkflation, says Dworsky, who writes the online Consumer World newsletter and has been tracking product downsizing for decades.
I remember the Charmin of the 1960s when Mr. Whipple came on TV.
I told him, squeeze the tomatoes, squeeze the melons, but please don't squeeze the Charmin.
And it had 650 sheets on a roll. The biggest one today has 366. It's about 90% less.
And it's not just toilet paper. Ice cream tubs used to be a half gallon, 2 quarts, then 1 3/4 quarts. They've now trimmed down to a svelte 1.5, because lately it's been the incredible shrinking everything.
Shrinkflation tends to come in waves. We happen to be in the middle of a tidal wave at the moment because of inflation.
That's because material and transportation costs have been soaring since the much-reported supply chain snags. How to best pass them on to us consumers?
Manufacturers rely on both raising the price and shrinking the product. The difference is they know that consumers are price conscious, and consumers will catch the fact if that container of orange juice went from $2.99 to $3.39.
Anyway, you get the idea, right? You are tricked into buying, well, it's the same price. Oh, but the bottle is now new. And man, I've seen this, for quite some time. This is typical of when things went south in Argentina. You suddenly saw all of these bottles suddenly started getting a lot slimmer. One of these advertisements, I think it was Coca-Cola, any one of these was saying, now easier to hold. So it was more anatomically correct for you to grab because they just did this. They just made the bottle thinner and just removed more product. So, and this has been going on for a while. They are correcting this. And when inflation hits, this gets particularly worse at times, because that's one of the ways in which, besides increasing the price, they just give you less product, which you're basically, you're in the same boat. But people realize more when, now it's what, $3? It used to be $2. It went up. It used to be $2.80 and now it's $3. Oh my God. But remove a little bit of that and change that a little bit, people won't realize it nearly as much. Look, for example, this one, Kleenex, 60. It used to be 65, now it's 60. It's not only about less sheets, it could also be thinner sheets. So be aware of that as well. Even if you have the same amount of sheets of paper, Kleenex or toilet paper, it may be a lot thinner than it used to be. You're basically in the same problem, you're just getting less stuff. Pringles getting smaller. This is from UK when they went with Brexit, and all of the stuff that's coming from the European Union suddenly became a lot more expensive, they just removed one of the chocolate triangles. And this was, funny at the time, I guess, but it's just an example of how all of a sudden you're paying more for the same stuff. And this translates directly into poverty. Now, what is it that you can do about all of this? Well, first, obviously, check prices. Not only prices, check the description of whatever you're buying. If it's 32 ounces, make sure you're still buying 32 ounces. If it's getting smaller like this, you may not even realizing. And this is going to be depending on what country you are in. In some countries, by law, they have to put not only the price of whatever item they're selling, they have to also include the price per gallon per pound. So if you're buying, like, for example, chocolate, that's, quite telling. You all of a sudden see that, man, one of these is a lot more expensive than the other when you look at the price per pound or per liter or quart or gallon or whatever it is that you're buying. Usually you have that. If you don't have that, well, you'll have to do the math yourself. It's a little bit, less convenient. This one is also quite good. Look at this, how it keeps getting smaller. Candy as time goes by just keeps on getting tinier and tinier. And yeah, it's just this way. Now, best advice I could give you is buy basic, food products. Don't buy processed food. First of all, it's not even good for you. Second, it's a lot easier to keep track of things. If you're buying the food, pound of rice or lentils or beans, if you're buying, a liter or gallon of oil or whatever it is that you're buying so as to cook, it's a lot easier to keep track of these prices. This tends to happen quite a bit more with all of these products that are, less obvious what they're doing. When you're buying food by the pound, by the kilogram, it's a lot easier to keep track. It's usually a lot less expensive. It's also by far a lot healthier. It's not just about the food aspect and the nutritional value. It's about the social aspect of cooking, sitting at a table as a family, the idea of people sitting with their microwave food and, everyone with a little tray in front of the TV. That is madness. That's the kind of thing you see in The Simpsons, but, people actually doing that for real, you have some, thinking to do. That's not healthy whatsoever as even as a lifestyle for your family and yourself. But learn to cook, check those prices. That's going to be going a long way. And that's going to be it, folks. For now, see you in the next video. Take care.